To know more such amazing stories from Indian history, click the bell icon and subscribe to Live History India. The city of Lucknow is known for its unique tehzeeb or culture and its beautiful buildings. Centuries have passed and empires have risen and fallen. But even in these fast-changing times, Lucknow's identity is intimately connected with that of its once ruling Nawabs. From the buildings to its cuisine and its dialect, it seems that the Nawabi influence is still strong in the city today, almost 150 years after their rule ended. The story of Lucknow starts from the unlikeliest of places, Nishapur in Iran, where the founder of the Nawabi dynasty, Sadat Khan, originally lived. We spoke to writer and city historian Ravi Bhatt on the story of Lucknow and its Nawabs.
Lucknow might be a dot on the map, but Lucknow is a place whose rulers, they are known in the history for not any war victories, not for winning any battle, not by defeating anyone. Lucknow's rulers are known for a culture which they had evolved, and that culture is a secular culture, and I'll give you a proof of that. You know, where the best of the sermons failed, culture evolved by Nawabs of Lucknow had succeeded. And proof of that is that way back in 1947, at the time of partition between India and Pakistan, when the entire country was burning in communal clashes. My dear friend, Lucknow was the only place with a major, the population of Muslim. It has not witnessed even a single clash. That is the culture. Culture runs here. Culture is something which you practice not for showing someone, but because that is what you are. So, and this culture was evolved by the Nawabs of Lucknow. And Lucknow, by the way, it was the richest city in the entire India during the time of British. It was richer than the presidency town of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. I'll start the story right from the A. You know, it was, we all know about Indian history, the basic of Indian history is that after the death of Aurangzeb, way back in 1707, the Mughal Empire's fortune started declining. It gradually started collapsing. It has become very weak. And around that very time, in Iran, there is a province known as Khorasan. In Khorasan, there is a city known as Nishapur. That city is Nishapur, and you can identify Nishapur with one personality whose name is Umar Khayyam, the great Persian poet who used to write Rubai. He is known, like Shakespeare is known in English, he is known in Persian language. And he was also from Nishapur. And even if today you go to Nishapur, you'll find a very magnificent mausoleum of this gentleman there, this great, all-time great poet. And in this city, there was a gentleman, his name was Mir Muhammad Amin. Mir Muhammad Amin was there. He was from a very rich family, and his lineage was very legendary. He was doing business. He lost all his money in business. As a result, he had no choice but to live with his in-laws. And as we all know, no self-respecting wife will like it that her husband lives on the money of her father. So one fine morning, she passed a very sarcastic remark against Mir Muhammad Amin. And Mir Muhammad Amin was so badly hurt that he left Iran for good. And like these days, the people are moving to West for better prospect in their career. The same way that time in Iran, people were coming to India. Mir Muhammad's father and brother, they had already moved from there, and in India they were at Patna. So he left Khorasan, Nishapur, and he came to India. Then he started working for a very different regional chieftains. And ultimately, like any person who's working for a regional chieftain, he always, dreams of working for the Emperor of India. So at the end, he reaches Delhi, and at that time in Delhi, the Mughal emperor was Farrukhsiyar. Farrukhsiyar was a person, and that is where he gets a job in the court of Farrukhsiyar through two brothers. They are known as Sayyid brothers. And anyone who is familiar with the Indian history knows it. Sayyid brothers are known as a king maker. 1719 is the year in which these two Sayyid brothers, they had changed, they had dethroned 5 Mughal emperors, one by one in 1 year, and installed the other. They were installed and dethroned within few days, few months. And now the name which I am going to take, you all are familiar. After Ibrahim, they installed on the throne of India Muhammad Shah Rangila. If I say Muhammad Shah, probably you can't make out, but when I say Rangila, I think anyone can make out. Muhammad Shah Rangila was on the throne. So our friend Mir Muhammad Amin, who had started from the Nishapur, he was now working for Muhammad Shah Rangila. But Muhammad Shah Rangila himself was so much scared of these two brothers, because he knew that in 1 year they have changed 5 kings, they can anytime, dethrone him also. And that time, as you know, in history, in politics, there's nothing like permanent, friend or permanent enemy. He got the job to Sayyid brothers, but Mir Muhammad Amin had joined the rival camp in the court politics. And he eliminated those Sayyid brothers. So now the Muhammad Shah Rangila was very happy with him. Naturally, the kingmaker were eliminated. Now Muhammad Shah Rangila was very happy. So as a reward, he was appointed the governor of Agra. And he was given the title by Muhammad Shah Rangila of Sadat Khan Burhanul Mulk Bahadur. That was the title. And my friends, in history, from that date, he is always referred as Sadat Khan only.
While Sadat Khan won many laurels and was made the commandant of Agra, he failed to properly manage the local affairs. In 1722, he was shifted to Awadh and was given the governorship of the province. From 1739 to 1748, North India saw a volatile phase, with the horrific invasion of Persian ruler Nadir Shah and then the brutal raids of the Afghan ruler Ahmad Shah Abdali. In the midst of this, the Nawabs of Awadh, who also held important positions in the Mughal court at Delhi, continued to play a critical role in North Indian politics. While Nawab Sadat Khan committed suicide, his son-in-law, Nawab Safdarjung, was a part of the team who defeated Abdali. Strangely, years later, Safdarjung's son Nawab Shujauddaulah actually funded Ahmad Shah Abdali during the Third Battle of Panipat against the Marathas in 1761. By 1775, when the Mughal Empire was on its decline, Awadh saw a new chapter. That was the year when Nawab Asaf-ud-Daula shifted his capital from Faizabad to Lucknow, giving it a new lease of life, all thanks to the dispute with his mother, the Bahu Begum.
Shujauddaulah dies in 1775, and then his son, whose name was Asif-ud-Daula. Asif-ud-Daula becomes the ruler. See what happens when you become ruler. So you want that everyone should obey you in your kingdom, and anyone will like it. But Asif-ud-Daula's mother, Bahu Begum, means Shujauddaullah's wife, Bahu Begum, she was from Delhi, and she was like a daughter of Delhi's emperor. So she was very highly connected. As a result, she was calling the shot in the court. Means the court officials, if she was overruling on any issue to Asif-ud-Daula, so courtiers will obey Bahu Begum, mother of Asif-ud-Daula, rather than obeying the Asif-ud-Daula. So now this started, he was cheesed off. He didn't like it, Asif-ud-Daula. So Asif-ud-Daula decided to get away from the influence of his mother. He shifted capital from Faizabad to Lucknow, where his father has also temporarily shifted. And this is where what he does that he starts making Lucknow his capital in a very systematic way. Everyone knows about the Chowk area of Lucknow, Old Lucknow, which is the hub of the Old Lucknow. So what he does, he acquires 52 villages there. And he shifts those villages to some other places, and that is where few historians say he had created Chowk. Few historians say Chowk was already existing he had organized it, and in an organized way he has created Chowk, expanded Chowk rather. So there are two schools of thoughts about the Chowk. The maximum number of construction during the period of Asif-ud-Daula was done.
Nawab Asif-ud-Daula built some of the most iconic buildings in Lucknow city, most notably the Bada Imam Bada and the Rumi Darwaza. The Bada Imam Bada has a most interesting story behind it.
Now, if you go to Husainabad area, you will find the most magnificent building of Nawabi era in Lucknow is undoubtedly Asfi Imam Bada. Common people call it Bulbulaiya because it is made in such a way that if a person outsider goes there inside and the proper guide is not there, the chances are that he will not be able to come out of it. So that Asfi Imam Bada was built by Asif-ud-Daula. Way back, the construction was started way back 1783-84. And that was a very interesting reason for making such a magnificent building. The reason was there was a famine and people were unemployed, dying of hunger. There was no job. So just to create a job, one of the reasons was there that he decided to make a Imam Bada. The most important feature of Asfi Imam Bada is the hall of Asfi Imam Bada. The size of Asfi Imam Bada is 162 into 53.6 inches and the height is 50 feet. And the interesting part is there is absolutely no beam in this hall, absolutely no metal is used in such a big hall. See the marvel of the architect that time. Now you can imagine that such a magnificent building stands in Lucknow. The Asif-ud-Daula is buried there along with his queen in the same hall. And just opposite that you will find Nawab Khana. Nawab Khana is a place which is known as a bandstand, if you can call it in English. And Nawab Khana used to be for two purposes, into the rich people's places or palaces rather. One was to just tell the time to everyone, like clock tower. And they were counting the time in a different way, like they were counting the time, the pehara. I will not go into details how they were counting the time. And the other was when some dignitary used to come, so they used to warn people by, just playing the band, someone, and that he's coming or he's going. Then that is where you will find a Rumi gate also. Rumi gate is 60 feet, the height of the Rumi gate is 60 feet, and the beauty of Rumi gate is that it is a two-faced gate. If you are coming from Chota Imam Bada, you see the gate, and if you are coming from this side, Hazarganj side, and you face the Rumi gate, they are two different. That's the marvel of architecture. And you will find lotus petal also engraved on the on the rim of the gate. And there were two gates like this. One was this side, the other was just in the other direction, but that was demolished by the Britishers.
While the British East India Company slowly began exerting its control over Awadh during the start of the 19th century, Lucknow flourished as the city of art and culture. Nawab Asifuddaullah's successors also built a number of grand buildings in the city.
After Asifuddaulah, the next ruler who comes, he was the Wazir Ali, his son. Wazir Ali was just for 4 months he was on the throne, and the same set of people from the court of Awadh and the Britishers who had helped him to become a, the Nawab, the same people started working against him, and he was he was deceived. Even his own father-in-law, Wazir Ali has made his father-in-law, the head of the intelligence, and he sided with the Britishers and started passing on all the information. So there's a koti known as Bibiapur Koti. Bibiapur Koti is again was built by Claude Martin, but owned by the Asifuddaulah. In Bibiapur Koti, he was called on the pretext of discussion by Britishers, and that is where he was arrested, and in place the Sadat Ali Khan was appointed the Nawab of Awadh. When Sadat Ali comes to rule, Sadat Ali Khan, the credit goes to this gentleman. Today's Hazarganj, which you see, that road was built by Sadat Ali Khan way back in 1810. You have seen there is a Chhatar Manzil. The Chhatar Manzil was originally a townhouse. It was known as Farhad Baksh, built by Claude Martin. And Claude Martin had died there. After the death of Claude Martin, this building was auctioned, and this was bought by one Spaniard, a person, and later on Sadat Khan put a pressure on him, sixth ruler, and he bought this townhouse where and we started living there, and he coined this word, Farhad. He had given the name of Farhad Baksh to this building. The construction of Chhatar Manzil on the banks of river Gomti was started as an extension by Sadat Ali Khan, but this building was completed during the time of his son Ghaziuddin Haidar. And during that time there is a Tedi Koti also. Tedi Koti is a place, it is called Tedi Koti because of its irregular plan. Now Tedi Koti is no more. Now that had been demolished and new building has cropped up at that place. Sadat Khan has made this place also. Janawari Koti was built by him, and the history of General Koti is it was a practice in Awadh. One son was appointed as general of the army, but not necessarily. So those people were staying here. Sadat Khan's son had also stayed here. Sadat Khan was poisoned to death by the conspiracy of Britishers. After that, his son Ghaziuddin Haidar. Ghaziuddin Haidar becomes a king. In 1819, 9th of September, the Britishers instigated him that you declare yourself independent king, defying the authority of Mughals. So, till 1819, they were the assistant of Mughal emperor. But on the instigation, and why Britishers instigated him? Because once the Governor General was not permitted by the King of India, the Mughal King of India, to sit in his presence. So that had hurt him a lot. So he said, you are so weak emperor, hardly you are at the mercy of us, we will create another king. So from that day, 9th of September, 1819, Ghaziuddin had declared himself as a king. From 1827 to 1837, his son Nasruddin Haidar was on the throne of Awadh, and during his time, he had built, there's a building known as Tarewali Koti. It is basically an observatory. This observatory was built on the lines of Greenwich Observatory, England. Now the story is that Britishers were very much desperate to get one observatory in this part of the country, but they didn't want to spend the money. So they, through the Wazir of Nasruddin Haider, Hakim Mehndi, through Hakim Mehndi, they started manipulating Nawab, and in 1832, the work of this observatory was started. A gentleman known as Captain James Herwood, he was called from Calcutta as the chief astronomer, but the work was not very satisfactory going on. So in 1735, one astronomer, Wilcox, was called from Calcutta. So he had his own design also. So he started, then the momentum of constructing building had taken place. After that, this building could be completed in the time of Muhammad Ali Shah, the 9th ruler, at the cost of 19 lakhs rupees. But this was operational during the time of 10th ruler Amjad Ali Shah. Now, Muhammad Shah Ali Shah was one person who gets the credit of, building maximum building in Husainabad area. So he started building Jama Masjid. Jama Masjid was built by him, but it could not be completed in his time. But he had left 10 lakhs rupees with his Begum. There was a building known as Baradari, and people call it Picture Gallery. That building too was made during his time, and for the first time the iron was used in that building. After the death of Amjad Ali Shah, now Wali Ali Shah becomes the king of Awadh. Wali Ali Shah was culturally a very evolved person, very evolved person. He is known for art and culture because he himself has written 100 books. And he has written a book on management also. The name of that book was Dastur-e-Wajdi. Wali Ali Shah, the moment he became the king, he immediately thought of a palace complex that is known as Kaisarbagh Palace Complex. He created started the work of that was started in 1848, and a number of beautiful gardens, palaces, imambaras were in that Kaisarbagh complex were created, and there were 10 ways in that, and out of that 2 are still existing. Since this Kaisarbagh was the hub of the revolt against Britishers, so in the uprising of 1857, where Britishers got the toughest of the fight, that was all freedom fighters. It was the headquarters of the freedom fighters. When Britishers captured it, as we all know that, the Britishers what started doing is they started, demolishing the signs of Nawabi period. And their target was, they have leveled almost most of the building in Kaisarbagh, because that was the headquarters of the so-called rebels. A gentleman, Wali Ali Shah, who himself had written a book of management, do you think he can't manage his kingdom? He was managing very well his kingdom. But Britishers always kept on telling him that you are not managing it properly. And as a result, on 4th of February 1856, he was given a warning. He was asked to sign on a treaty that he is surrendering his kingdom to Britishers, which he had refused. He was given 3 days' time. On 7th of February 1856, his kingdom was annexed. And as you know, he felt very bad. So he decided that the Britishers living in India, they are not giving him justice to Wali Ali Shah. Wali Ali Shah decided to go to England and put up his case before the Queen Victoria.
The Nawabi rule over Lucknow ended in 1856 when its last ruling Nawab, Wajid Ali Shah, was deposed by the British East India Company and exiled to Metiaburz, then a suburb of Kolkata. The following year, Lucknow rose in revolt against the British, and the city saw some of the heaviest fighting in India. Following its recapture, the British levelled large parts of the city and much of the Nawabi era buildings were lost. Today, only a few of the grand buildings that the Nawabs built survive in the city, some well preserved, others decaying. What has remained are the tales of old Lucknow and its echoes today.